to a podcast about something where each week we dive deep into whatever it is we find interesting. I'm your host, Calvin, and joining me from, we'll just say it, the Chagos Islands, is your co-host, Nick Richardson.
I always thought it was the Chagos Islands.
I kept reading it as Chagos.
That
So
sounds
better
better.
land on something quick.
I like that. Chagos.
Are we just going to go with Chagos, or should we get the real pronunciation?
I'm going with Chagos.
Okay. I'm getting the pronunciation here. We had to do this on our Vincent Chase episode, too, because we didn't know how to say Adrian Grenier, or Grenier.
Grenier. I remember that. I do. I think Eric won that one, didn't he? No,
He
that
did.
was you. Oh, did he?
No. Yeah, I was
I
with...
was going to say, I thought you
Grenier.
were right in the end.
Chagos.
Chagos?
Chagos. All right. Well, now that we know what we're talking about, before we get into the Chagos Islands, we just want to say we understand what's going on in the world right now as we speak, Wednesday, June 3rd. We're not going to talk too much on that, and we're obviously not going to do full episodes on it or anything like that. I support the Black Lives Matter movement and all of the protesting going on. Nick, I think you do too, but I don't want to speak for you.
100%. 100% I do.
Okay, good. As you've seen on our Twitter feed, if you've been following our Twitter feed, that's pretty much all it's been this week, is just retweeting and boosting things that I can, or doing my own stuff that I can to, I don't know, just lend a voice to things, because I think that's as important as, what, that maybe not as important, but it's important to, if you have a voice, to lend that voice as much as you can. And like I said, we're not going to do a whole episode because it's Wednesday, June 3rd, and we do our episodes 5 days in advance. So we record Wednesday, they release Monday. I feel like anything we say now, if we did a full episode, it's going to be stale by Monday, June 8th.
Yes.
So, and that's not to take anything away from the movement. I think the movement will still be going and it will still be strong. I'm hoping it will be. I just think the news cycle is so dense right now that whatever we're saying today may not be important on Monday. There will be more new important stuff to talk about on Monday. So I don't think it's fair to talk about something today that won't necessarily be in the cultural view by Monday.
Well, and at the same time, it's just these things that most people are aware of, the goings on in the news. It's kind of hard not to be focused on something like this. But we just wanted to make the point that we 100% stand behind the Black community and their message that they're trying to get across.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
Yeah, that's how I feel about that.
We stand against oppression, which shouldn't be a controversial thing to say. And if that's controversial to you, just go ahead and stop listening right now.
Please. Because this
we don't
is
want you to
America,
listen to us.
God damn it.
Yes.
The land of the free, bitches.
Yes. So yeah, and the other thing is, like, I don't think either of us are really qualified to talk too intelligently on what's going on. I haven't been to any protests. I won't go to any protests. First of all, because as we talked about before we started recording, I live in Florida, where, I just don't think it's gonna happen. I would be afraid of, like, I have a family and things like that. I don't want to put myself in a position to be hurt for my family. Like, I don't think that's fair to them. But props to everyone who is doing that and who is putting themselves on the line and going out into these unsafe situations. Try to stay as safe as you can. It seems like it's getting harder every day, so hopefully that gets diminished a little bit.
We can only hope for their safety. That's about it.
Yes.
And I mean, I'm pretty confident the people out there fighting right now will succeed in their goal and ambition, because I don't think there's any going back from here, and that's a good thing. So,
yeah, I hope there's not.
Forward momentum is it's a wonderful thing. There's some powerful voices speaking out against this, high in the military and high outside of the military, that are really making good
John
contributions.
Boyega out there riling people up. That's for damn sure.
That's a passionate young man, and I can respect that.
Shout out John Boyega, Patreon of the show.
That'd be dope. That'd be so
Maybe now
awesome.
he is. I retweeted a lot of his stuff today, so I mean, maybe he noticed.
It's like, who the fuck is this guy?
All right. So, having said that, good luck to everyone who is fighting the good fight. Keep using your voice, whatever voice that is, to help out people who need this help, and just be as safe as you can. It's hard to do.
Damn near impossible.
So, we're here to actually talk about the Chagos Islands. Or what did we land on? Chagos?
Chagos.
Chagos? Chagos Islands, which
Sounds like an Irish beef of some sort.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like haggis. Yeah. So the Chagos Islands, which this is just maybe not a happy accident, but a coincidence? Let's say a coincidence.
Full coincidence.
That the topic we landed on today also deals with American oppression of other people. We didn't plan for this, obviously. Like, we had this mapped out in the beginning of May, so we didn't know that a black person was going to be murdered by a cop and there would be this huge uprising over that. But apparently, anytime you talk about oppression, there's probably a coincidence in there somewhere with a real life event.
Yeah, it's getting to be that way.
Because it hasn't gone away.
No, but it's going. It's fucking going.
I hope so. All right, so Nick, where are the Chagos Islands? And what are they?
They're islands, sir, of the Chagos variety. They're made of a fine beef from Ireland. No, okay, sorry. I had to fuck around for a second.
That's good.
There are a group of 7 atolls comprised of more than 60 islands in the Indian Ocean, 300 miles
south. Now, Nick,
south.
I know what an atoll is, and you know what an atoll is, but should we explain for our listeners who, may not be as smart as you and I are, what an atoll is?
Yes, it's something that the United States military repeatedly bombs with nuclear weapons, and then radioactive sponges, starfish, and octopi, or squids, my bad, become the life forms that occupy the land.
That's exactly it. No, it's basically a reef.
Yes.
It's a reef that kind of turns into an island. Like, most islands are mountains underneath the sea, and these are mountains, but they have coral reef or some sort of reef growing on the outside as a perimeter, and then there's an island in there.
Correct.
I think I summed that up well.
You did a great job. I liked my
I like that
explanation
fan theory, though. The SpongeBob fan theory of it, they're all radioactive waste creations. I do like that.
We do have a lot of nuclear bombs here in America.
Yeah.
A shit ton. We could bomb every island, probably.
Oh, yeah, definitely the Chagos Islands. They are located in the Indian Ocean. They're about 310 miles south of Maldives. The Maldives Archipelago. Maldives Archipelago. See, there we go again.
Archipelago.
I prefer archipelago.
Sorry, I feel like a dickhead.
No,
grammar police.
That's one of those words that I go back and forth on pronouncing archipelago and archipelago. Like, it's just one of those that it's like caramel and caramel. Sometimes it just rolls off your tongue one way or the other.
Pecan or pecan?
Yeah, I've never landed on a good spot for pecans or pecans.
Pecan pie.
I just don't say it. I don't eat them, so I don't really care.
What? Oh my!
I don't want your fucking pie. Get it out of my face.
Bitch.
No, caramel? That's a different story.
All right.
They're the southernmost archipelago of the Chagos Laccadive Ridge, which is a submarine mountain range in the Indian Ocean, for those of you who didn't know. And it contains the world's largest coral atoll, the Great Chagos Bank.
Isn't that fucking sweet, though?
That is awesome.
It is sweet.
And we're going to get to something that, I thought was a good thing, and then it turns out it's a bad thing, and we'll talk about that when we get there. And I thought it was really cool, but it's not really cool because of other reasons. I'll bring that back up. A lot of natural resources, not a lot of natural resources, some natural resources.
Very islandy,
yes.
Natural resources, things that you could definitely live a very good life off of. And
coconuts and fish.
Yeah, you could still live a pretty good life. You'll be relatively tiny.
Gilligan stayed on that island for 8 years, man.
Look at
just coconuts and fish.
Let me say this: if you're interested, go to Google and look up just a picture or Wikipedia article about the Chagos Islands, and there will be a picture. Look how jacked this dude is. Holy shit! Let me say that first. Place is absolutely gorgeous, a total paradise, and the natural resources kind of reflect that, which I think is silly, but true to an extent. But yeah, that dude is fucking jacked, so I think it's a pretty good life to live.
And I mentioned Gilligan, and now I've made up this own fan theory in my head that Gilligan and the skipper and Professor and Mary Ann and Ginger, they were stranded on the Chagos Islands.
Damn.
It's got to be it.
You
They're
just broke the
on one of
internet.
the ancillary islands, and then like sometimes they would get visited by like natives from a nearby island. Those guys are from the main island, I think. So that's what's going on in Gilligan, in case
Yeah.
anybody was wondering.
Eventually, they're just gonna kill Gilligan and his whole crew.
So commercial fishing used to provide around $2 million for the British Indian Ocean authorities, but no commercial licenses have been granted since October of 2010, and there's lots of reasons for that we'll get to at the end of this, because some crazy shit went down uh, pretty much for the entire history of these islands, and that kind of came to an end in 2010.
Finally, like Jesus Christ, this thing has been tumultuous.
Yeah, and so there's no economic or agricultural activities on the islands right now. All water, food, and other essential items are shipped to the islands,
Yeah, even
which is
though
pretty crazy.
that is pretty intense, but I mean, people, the way they're inhabited now, or used, they're not gonna go fishing.
Well, that's true. The current inhabitants not taking their time to fish.
Nah.
It's got a tropical oceanic climate, hot, humid, moderate trade winds. Again, just lovely, lovely place to go visit if they had like a 5-star resort. But they
I'd be
don't.
all about that. I mean,
Plenty
it
of
is,
5-star military bases, no 5-star resorts.
as you know, military bases are usually gray and cold, but this place is
So 2-star military bases.
yeah, the one and a quarter. But this island, when I was looking at pictures of it, is just like, oh my god, this place is absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
And I would be terrified to go swimming in the water though, because sharks are fucking there like crazy. Tons of sharks.
Well, yeah, because the water's mostly untouched, so like they can just live their lives, man.
Yeah, I mean they kind of hunt the turtles around there, which get some good sized turtles. I mean that's a decent meal for some sharks. That'll keep them around.
Not a big fan of eating turtle.
I've never tried it,
I don't
and
know
I
that
don't
I've
plan.
actually ever eaten a turtle.
I was horrified by Dwight Schrute's little, I got you a turtle here.
Oh,
with
yeah.
me." Oh my god, that fucking, I was just like, no!
So speaking of sharks, I was in GameStop last week. There's a new video game coming out. I don't know what it's called off the top of my head, but it's basically you get to be
yeah.
the shark.
Yeah, oh god.
And like vicious shark, which is it looked pretty cool. It seems like it'd be a fun game to play for about an hour, and then you'd be like, okay, I'm done being a shark.
It's like Crazy Taxi. It's like, oh my god.
Yeah.
How
Yep.
crazy
I have
can I
Crazy
get?
Taxi for PS2 still. Every once in a while I'll play it, and I'll just be like, okay, that was a good way to spend 15 minutes, but I'm done.
Yeah, time to put this away.
And who discovered the Chagos Islands?
Well, it was actually the Southern Moldavians, who were they were kind of aware of the islands, but you know, because many of their fishermen and explorers had been lost there and then subsequently rescued, but they looked at it as too far south to be viable. So technically, the first people who discovered it, kind of like how Christopher Columbus discovered America.
Yeah, there were already people there.
Yeah, definitely. Were the Portuguese, who were the first European to discover the island.
Pedro de Mascarenas.
That is a great pronunciation. In 1512, I struggled with that. I was hoping you'd care.
It's almost like Macarena, but you just got an extra S in there.
Yes.
Mascarenas.
Yes. Ooh, that was really good. I liked it.
There we go.
Take me by
So when he discovered it, and that's kind of up for debate a little bit, I saw that he actually discovered them, but we're going to go with that because, we looked on Wikipedia and that's what it said.
Yeah, and Calvin can pronounce it, so we're going to stick with this shit.
He named the islands Baças de Chagas. Chagas is the Portuguese word for wounds, and it was named referring to the holy wounds of the crucifixion of Jesus.
That is something someone would name in 1512.
Yes.
Like, yeah, the wounds of these islands, they're beautiful. They're totally the wounds of Christ. The fuck? Get out of here with that.
I name this in the name of Christ.
And his
the
bloody
holes in his
wounds.
feet.
Yes, terrible. These islands.
Yeah, what takes your mind to that place? Is it 1500s? Is that Crusades or is that post-Crusades?
That's post-Crusades and kind of like prior, or like, I can't remember if it's in the throes of the Renaissance. I want to say it's still in a dark period.
It's like right in there.
Yeah, I want to say it's prior to the Renaissance and in a dark period.
When
but
were the Crusades?
The old
Like 900?
900 to like 1300, I think, was the last crusade.
I'm not a history buff, in case anyone was wondering.
Yeah,
I'm looking
I
it
don't
up.
recall. But
1096 and 1291 is the date range.
I was
for
fucking
Crusades.
close, buddy.
Yeah.
Like 900 to 1300. I was out there. But either way, I think this is like maybe right around the fucking Renaissance, man, because
Yeah,
people
I would
are
say,
exploring.
I mean, the Renaissance was like 300 years. Right after the Dark Ages, that's when the Renaissance comes.
Yeah, and the Portuguese are kind of fucking far. So, I mean, they're exploring.
I don't get. So what favor are you trying to curry by naming your newly discovered island paradise after the wounds of Jesus?
Bro, it's 1512. Everybody was scared of Jesus. Fucking everybody.
Yeah, that's true. Christianity had a hold on the world.
Still do, son.
Well, yeah. And then so Portuguese got there, they named it and everything, but the French were actually the first to lay like an actual claim to the islands when they settled Réunion in 1665, which is one of the islands, and Isle de France in 1715, which is now Mauritius, which that's like a well-known place, right?
Super well known, I think.
Yeah.
It sounds familiar.
Yeah. Every time I came across the word, I was like, oh, I know that word.
Fucking French, though, man. They did that everywhere. They're just like, yeah, mine. Yeah. I know you call dibs, but it's
the
mine.
Macarena was here already? Nope.
Yes.
This is French shit now.
It's going to stink like
We're going to name
cheese.
it a French word, and you don't get it anymore.
It's going to have France in the title, so you'll know who fucking took it.
Therefore, you know.
Yeah. No.
So we need to talk, we talked about how it got settled and who settled there, but I think it's important to know what the native population was like before it was settled and kind of the life they tried to lead even after they were settled as native Chagosians. So they were known as the Iloi, which is a kind of French Creole word, and they numbered about 1,000 people on all of these islands.
Yes, they basically they were brought in as slaves by the English after they were basically France signed the Treaty of Capitulation with the English, and they got some islands. And yeah, Britain brought a bunch of slaves there in 1793, which is the actual natives of the island.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yes, they had a weird combination of, because Creole is a French word,
right? Yep.
And English, Dutch, stuff like that. So they're
I had that they're mixed.
Indian,
mixed descent, African, South Indian, Portuguese, English,
yes.
French, and Malay. So basically, just anyone the British could get their hands on and turn into slaves, they brought them there.
Correct. They brought an original 300, and obviously, I mean, with your major export is coconuts, which began to grow wildly on the island relatively soon after it was first discovered by that Portuguese Macarenas dude. I'm gonna not do that again.
Macarenas.
Yeah, I'm just gonna not do that again for the fans and myself.
No, we lost them all when we told them that being against oppression is controversial, so no one's listening anymore.
Yeah, well,
up to this point, we were a very pro-Trump podcast, so
kiss my ass.
No, we weren't.
I was gonna say pro-Trump, never. I did buy my dad some for Christmas. This is a little side note. I bought my dad some Trump toilet paper.
I've seen that.
He said it was irritably uncomfortable. But anyways.
Just like his presidency.
Yes. That was awesome. All right. But yeah, these poor guys, man, they were brought in and basically given a really small gene pool. So I think that's kind of nature's way of keeping numbers small, and I want to say it pretty much maxed out naturally at 1,000 residents of the Chagos Islands before things changed slightly.
Yeah, they lived very simple Spartan lives, as Wikipedia puts it. They worked in coconut and sugar plantations, or some got to be fishermen, and also small textile industries they worked in a little bit. They spoke Chagosian Creole, and everyone that inhabited those islands, those natives that the British brought in, they were forcibly removed by U.S. and British governments during the late 60s to early 70s to usher in a new regime of basically just military bases.
Yes, the British had a deal with the U.S. for like $1.2 million or something. They would procure the islands, and then
It was $14 million worth of
I
a
thought it was
$14 million
1.4.
discount on weapons in
Yes,
1967.
correct.
So
Okay,
it
yeah.
was,
You right, Maury.
yeah, it was, yeah, the British gave the islands to the U.S. in exchange for $14 million discount on weapons, mostly nukes.
And they signed it through some like
It's like the
weird.
James Harden trade right
Yes,
there. Here, have these useless islands, and we'll give you $14 million off a nuke.
more like the DeAndre Hopkins trade.
Ooh,
Yeah, that comparison was fucking
topical.
on point, if I do say so myself. But the sole purpose was for the United States to build a military base there, which
Yes.
the British would kind of basically just, they wouldn't occupy, but use it as something to kind of maintain a zone of security, I guess, because U.S. British are allies, yada yada. But that's some bullshit, dude. They just fucking, they're like, yeah, no, you gotta fucking go.
Yeah, and so we'll get into because it gets bullshittier. Diego Garcia is the largest island, and it's also the only inhabited island. And like we said, they're basically only military bases for the U.S. and the U.K. Up until what was it, like the early to late 2000s, and then the British did something else with them, and
It had
yes,
it had like a clause. It was a 36-year deal till
yeah,
2010, and then it had an option for another 20 years. But the fucking Brits, man.
yeah, they screwed everything up for everyone. So no indigenous people live on the islands, although many have petitioned to return home, and they've been denied by U.S. and U.K. legal system. We'll get to more on that in a minute. And the U.K. represents the islands internationally, but not so much anymore. That was up until 2015, and then that kind of got disputed at some point, which again, there will be a little bit more on that later. But let's talk about what was happening during the Cold War. What people would try and leave, you know, because there's not a lot of natural resources on these islands. They would have to go to Mauritius for supplies, medical treatment, really just anything they needed, right? So in the 1960s, people are leaving, they're going over there, grab their shit, get some milk, get a band-aid, shit like that.
Yes, antiseptic, eggs.
Then they just wouldn't come back.
They just fucking disappear.
Yep. Um, so the islands were technically a British colony at the time, and they still kind of are. But then, as we said, in 1967, British gave the islands over to the U.S. for a $14 million discount on weapons. And so when the Americans got these islands, the admiral in charge of the whole deal is like, hey, we got to get these guys out of here. And quote said, the native population absolutely must go.
Yeah, that's the
So
only way
that
they
they
would
could
take the fucking
build a
islands.
military base. Yep.
Pretty much.
And British leaders were also quoted as saying a few Tarzans and Man Friday shouldn't hold up the plan to turn this into. I don't know what a Man Friday is, but it sounds bad,
I think
especially when you said it next
Tarzans
to
as well.
Tarzans.
Yeah. Shit. Oh my god, it's terrible. I think that honestly, British people are relatively gentlemen, and
Not this
gentle
guy.
ladies. But no, I'd say for the time, that was pretty mild.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, the
I
admiral
don't,
of the
I don't,
American dude
I
was
don't
like,
have an actual British asshole to attribute this to. Just from the article, the most of this information comes from a Crack.com article from 2018 written by Alex Hanton. That was titled "6 Real Life Conspiracies Crazier Than Anything in Movies."
it's a good
Uh,
article. I
it is a
enjoyed it.
great article. I'll link it in the comments if you guys want to read it. So basically, they don't want the natives there because they want to build a military base. And I don't know why the natives stop them from building a military. I guess if they have houses and shit like that they need out of the way. Because they want to turn the entire island into one military complex.
Yeah, and I mean, they don't want them there because technically slavery is illegal, indentured servitude is illegal at this point. You can't really have plantations anymore.
Well, and they can't force
it's-
them. They can't necessarily force them off of their land. Like they can't displace them. I mean, they can, as we're going to talk about, but they can't displace them to somewhere else on
legally.
the islands.
Yes.
Yeah. Whereas, like, okay, you want to build a military base on the coast of South Carolina, and people have houses there, you can kind of more or less pay them off to be like, we need your land. You go live over here in South Carolina. There's nowhere else to go in the Chagos Islands.
No, I mean it's the one inhabited island because I imagine it's the only one big enough, the only one with enough agriculture and stuff like that to really sustain any kind of human foothold.
Yeah, and like just general living on the coast is not like you can't get too close to the coast sometimes.
The coast
So
will
the
beat
the
your
smaller
ass.
yeah, the smaller islands, they might not have enough inland area to even settle.
That's a fantastic point. I don't live near the water, so that's not really a problem for me. So thank you for that perspective.
All right, so what was happening to these people, Nick?
They're basically going to Moriartis?
Meridius.
Meridius.
Should we look that one up too?
No.
All right.
Meridius. To get supplies, stuff like that. And the British were basically like, sorry, you can't go back, good fellow.
I say, good sir. You have to stay here forever.
I don't really recognize Chagos, so fuck you, and you get to stay. So they would basically deny the right to go back and would just tell everyone, they're just migrant workers. I don't know.
I don't know where this guy came from.
So they're basically fucking stranded, which is...
And they're stranded. They have no way of contacting their homes because like it's the 60s and 70s. They don't have cell phones, anything like that. And I'm sure the phone reception between Meridius and the Chagos Islands is not fantastic, even for landlines.
No, and I mean...
Or the infrastructure behind it.
They're a relatively Spartan people, so they probably don't have
They might not have phones.
Yeah, I imagine they don't have
one
a phone
phone
on the island.
whole fucking island.
There's probably like one motorized boat on the whole island.
So the U.S. and British governments, the Chagosian people tried to protest what's going on because people are just disappearing and they don't know why. They want to know where their families are. So, they're trying to protest, want to know where their displaced family members are, and the U.S. and British governments just pretty much lied to everyone and claimed that, like you said, the ones that were in Mauritius, they're migrant workers. They've got no connection to the islands. Nothing going on here. Just move along.
Right, and as a non-government island, basically it has zero government whatsoever, or zero currency. They have no identification. They have no fucking address. They don't get mail. It's something that.
Well, the people have no agency either. They have no
absolutely
way.
Not. Especially in the
even
60s.
Even if they said, hey, that's my husband, there's nothing, like you said, there's no political backing behind them to be like, we need to get our person back. They're just like, nope, you said it's your husband, I say it's not. That's the end of it.
They're like, oh look, a free person to do stuff with. Yeah.
Well, they didn't want to do stuff with him. They just didn't want him going back.
Well, that is a fantastic point. I guess. Yeah, just come here, ruin your fucking life, and you probably don't speak the language very well. Nope. I imagine they had their own language.
They've got no language skills to communicate with the U.S. and British governments to say, hey, that's this person I know. And even if they did, again, they're not going to care.
No, they're just gonna be like, all right, mate, just take a seat. Here's some tea. And
yeah, I mean, I'm sure they'll tie them up in red tape as much as possible if somebody does make a value claim. They're just gonna,
I think all they literally had to say at the time was be like, no, that's not true, and boom, it's just gone. Even if you got it in front of a judge.
Yeah, they could do that, or they just say, okay, we'll look into it, and then.
Bye.
Yeah, and then what are you gonna do?
You have
you're
no
not
money.
Going to travel over there because then you're not coming back. You're not going to. You have no way to fight it. There's no police force. There's no judges, anything to say, hey, they took my husband. It's you're just stuck if they say we'll look into it and then never do. What are you gonna do?
And imagine the cultural. The cultural differences beyond the language barrier. I'd imagine on a relatively small island with very few people.
Everybody's probably pretty trustworthy.
Exactly. I was just you fucking read my mind there, and then they're like, oh yeah, so they said they'd be back in 5 minutes. I know it's been 10, but whatever. I'll wait another 20, 30 years, and then maybe I'll see what's up. I'll ask them.
Yeah, exactly. That was the point I was trying to get to. Is there's that cultural difference of that you're probably used to people being trustworthy because there's 1,000 people on your island. Nobody's gonna get away with anything. There's no secrets between 1,000 people.
Right.
and now all of a sudden you're being lied to, and and these are supposed to be, people in positions of authority, so you think they're telling you something that you can believe,
I
and they're
mean,
just not.
shit, they got guns and boats and nice clothes and good food and cigarettes and booze and shit like that. They were just like, whoa, like, you guys are so fucking sweet. I love
Well,
this
it seemed
place.
like before this time, there's no real authority structure to like telling people what to do or how to do things. Like people were just
No, it
there to
didn't.
live their lives, other than, I mean, slave masters, basically. But at this point, that we're far enough away from that, but we haven't gotten into like bureaucratic red tape. These islanders have never seen bureaucratic red tape before. They don't know what to do with it. Like,
That
here, fill
and
out this form. What the fuck does that mean?
right, and just straight up independence, I think.
Yeah.
I think the cultural momentum of the entire world had moved past slavery and indentured servitude and, sharecroppers and shit like that. So it's something that,
Well, and these people work on a coconut plantation because their parents worked on a coconut plantation, and the parents before them worked on it. Like, it's just this skill that got handed down
yeah, it's a
from
cyclical
generation to
thing.
generation. And yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that they're enslaved anymore. They may have been practically enslaved, but if you asked a U.S. official, it wouldn't have been called enslavement,
Oh no, they
But
just they like it.
at that
They have a
point,
great
it's their
time.
way of life, right? It's
Yeah,
the thing they do. It gives them purpose. And
provides
now the person
sustenance
who
and
brought that to them is gone, and they have no way to get that person back.
exactly. That's a terrible situation.
Mm. So, fast forward 1971, the remaining islanders were informed that they had to leave, and to kind of prove their point, American soldiers shot and gassed all of the pet dogs on the island.
Yeah, the fuck is that
It's like, yeah,
about,
that's fucked
man?
up.
That is bullshit.
Yep.
I'd be throwing hella rocks. Well, I mean, they just shot and gassed all your dogs. Why you gotta gas them?
Yeah.
That's just fucking
Fuck
mean.
with
That's
people's
cruel.
dogs. Come on now. So the British then cut off all the supplies to the natives, so no more incoming supply shipments, and in 1973, the last of the islanders were forcibly removed. During and after this time, many of the Chagossians died from what they called sagarin, which is their Chagosian Creole word for sorrow. So many died to the point that the World Health Organization, the WHO, had to recognize it as a serious local medical problem.
Isn't that
People
fucking
just
terrible?
dying of sorrow.
That is unbelievable.
Padme Amidala out there, man.
Fuck that. Sorry, had to get that out of me.
There you go.
I fucking hate that shit.
The Chagosians feel her pain.
You bastard.
All right, so what's the fallout from this, right? Because that's important.
Oof.
There are no longer any native Chagosians. The islands are completely inhabited by military bases. But in April of 2010, Britain announced the creation of the Chagos Marine Protected Area, the world's largest continuous marine protected reserve. It's over 210,000 square miles.
Yeah, I mean, so they recognize that it's a beautiful place, but fuck the people. Get them the fuck out of here. We got to look at this, sweet reef here.
And
Look
so,
at all these sharks.
They did that to try and protect the rich biodiversity of the archipelago and its surrounding waters, but also because they deemed that the military operations wouldn't affect any of that. So the military could stay there, but people couldn't be there. So on first reading, I'm like, oh, they made it a protective reserve. That's a great thing. Let's, save some wildlife, make a beautiful place to look at. That's a great thing by the Brits there. No. That wasn't really what they were doing.
Well, and I imagine they get some kind of other protections as well. Like you can't bring enemy warships or something like that into a protected zone, or it's an active war. I could totally see something like that.
Yeah, I could see that.
With a defensive structure.
I mean, one of the most important parts of it was that people could not settle there.
Yeah, and I mean, after the Britons, the British paid, what, 650 grand to the Mauritius? I don't know.
Mauritius.
Mauritius. There we go. To the Meridians, to basically keep the Chagosians. It's a done deal. So they have no interest in, letting anyone come back.
Well, they didn't ever want the people back. Like they liked that what they gained from a military perspective on the island. So by first establishing the military bases and then tacking on this marine protected area state ship to it, it's just basically a sovereign military base. They can do whatever the fuck they want with it. Nobody's allowed in. Nobody's allowed out. Like it's just whatever they want.
I bet some bad shit goes down there.
Yeah, maybe that'll be the next step. That'll be Chagos Islands Part 2. Like what's really going on in the military base, right?
I think we could find out. I got a couple people on the inside.
I don't think you do.
I do.
All right.
I do actually.
So there is some good news on that front of basically this whole British is taking advantage of this beautiful place to keep its people out. On March 18th, 2015, the Permanent Court of Arbitration unanimously held that the Marine Protected Area violates international law. So basically, Britain didn't have a right to claim that this was a marine protected area because they never, quote unquote, owned the islands, for lack of a better term. And thus they had no right to create the preserve there. And they kind of said that the original deal with Mauritius, they kind of took advantage of them on that, and it never should have been approved by an international body. And so because the initial agreement between Britain and Mauritius is unlawful or whatever, it doesn't exist. So basically British doesn't have any right to make laws governing the island. Like they should still be internationally under Mauritius's banners.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, giving the Native Americans a bunch of beads for large swaths of land. I mean,
Right.
When you look at the dates in which these transactions went down in the late 60s and early 70s, 1.4 or 14 million or whatever, that's not a lot of money for a chain of islands when you think about it.
Not when you're building a big ass military base there.
Fuck no.
No. So, did you have anything else we need to cover on the Chagos Island?
It's just a raw ass deal, man.
Yeah, it is.
This is something that I kind of, when I sat back and thought about it, I was like, damn, this could have easily been America.
Yeah.
When you think about
absolutely.
it, if it could have gone this way or the way it did. So yeah.
And it just it goes to strengthen that the history of oppression has always been there, and it's always going to be part of kind of American political power, right? Of let's oppress what we can and deal with the fallout rather than let's try and make things work for everyone.
It's a control thing.
Yes. And it hasn't gone away. And even in, small things like this, as we need a military base in the southern Indian Ocean, let's just kick these people off their land and, by whatever means necessary. It's a shitty look.
Well, I mean, it's a doubly shitty look for two of the prime countries in the world. Like at the head of the world stage, they're basically in any international council that's worth a fucking damn. And at the same time, they're building, a military base for no fucking reason, basically. I don't really think it serves any purpose but being a military
it's not
base.
Super strategically placed.
No. And I don't know. I just think it's fucking silly to displace a bunch of people.
It's more like we can have this and we can do what we want here, so we're going to. And so I was interested in it because it's a little known thing that happened. I've never talked to anyone.
I was fascinated by it, yeah.
That, has said anything about the Chagos Archipelago, and it's not something you learn in history class. It's just so that I wanted to explore it, and it doesn't go much deeper than, what we talked about, but there is some more depth to it, and there is there isn't a lot going on the island, so it's like you said, it's weird that we would try to go that we would oppress people to have these islands that have very little worth. Except as a marine protected area, that is the worth in those islands of you can preserve this, one of the largest coral reefs in the world.
Yeah, and especially
that's
the
not
Indian
what
Ocean.
anyone's looking to do.
Right? I mean, you already displaced the people. Let's at least stop it here. But I literally think it played out like basically during the fall of the British Empire. They're looking around like, fuck, what kind of assets do we got? They sold it off, then rebought it because they knew that they could make a quick fucking buck from the Americans. Yeah, because the French were in there
for a little while too of negotiating and wheeling and dealing with these islands.
Right, but all you got to say is military base, bro, to the Americans, and they're like, yeah, we'll pay $14 million.
We're there all 100%. Day for a military base.
So they fucking made bank.
And the way that it went down, the way that people were forced off their land and forced out of this area, you expect that from communist Russia or communist China or to hear about like Attila the Hun or somebody like that to do this stuff. You don't
Visigoths.
Think of it of like 60s and 70s Americans forcing people off their land, or Christopher Columbus and those type of explorers. You hear about it all the time, but to think America in the 60s and 70s in the middle of the Vietnam War and the Korean War and all these other things that are we're trying to help oppressed people, but on our right hand we're helping all these oppressed people defeat their oppressors, and on the left hand we're kicking people off of their home island so we can build a military base because we want to.
Honestly, I mean it was post Korea and Vietnam, so it's something that, well, it was very ass into Vietnam when it was clear we were not winning that war. I think it was something. It's like, yeah, let's throw this out there. It's a show of power for sure. Fuck you, Russia.
Well, we obviously need more military bases in the East if we're going to be in all these conflicts in the East, and it's Cold War times. You never know what Russia's going to do. We got to get in there.
Yeah, we got to get these people out here for their safety. This is vital point. It's going to get attacked. The Russians love coral. Have you heard how much they love it? The shark fins. Chinese people love that shit too.
So we got to make sure we're protecting the sharks. We got snipers lined up all around the atoll just to protect the sharks.
And we have the sharks with freaking laser beams on their heads.
We haven't figured that part out yet, but
Alcatraz.
That's in the R&D department. We're working on the lasers.
We got barracudas in the meantime.
Yes, we have what was it? Aggressive barracudas or something?
I don't even remember.
Yeah.
I had a quick story. I had piranha. I had 8 of them that I got as babies, and I grew them till they were large. They were gross as fuck, but they could totally not defend an island. Let me just throw that out there. American military, FBI, because I know you're listening.
Maybe they got in. Maybe they were trying to get in on that when we did the crazy conspiracies episode. Maybe they were trying to get in on some of that Egypt-Israeli spy dolphin shit. Like that's why they needed this set of islands. They were trying to make our own spy dolphins. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean. They're just like, yeah, military base. All right, bro, let's do it.
That's all it is. And to me, like, okay, trying to lay claim to something and build a military base, that is what it is. That's part of the world, right? The problem to me is forcing the people off the island in the way that they did.
Yeah, that was.
It wasn't
that
like,
was
hey,
shitty.
we're gonna relocate you. It's 1,000 people with very little economic stability already.
None. They have none.
I'm pretty sure you could give them some money to move them to Mauritius legally, and everybody would work out just fine. But like by just being like, nah, you can't go back home, or we're gonna pepper spray your fucking dogs until you leave.
No, we're gonna gas them. We are going to kill them.
Gas them. Sorry. Yeah.
Or shoot them. But I mean, easily the cost of paying Mauritius to take these people, they could have dumped them off on some other fucking island, reestablished their entire culture basically, paid for education, development of currency, medicated every single one of them, and they'd probably be a more viable people and still have a cultural heritage. But it was just like, nah, that sounds like a lot of work.
Well,
I don't want to do that.
I feel bad for the few descendants of these people that are still out there that like know that they have this heritage that they can't return to.
They have to feel like such wayward people. I do find it fascinating that they're still practitioners of the language. Like that's pretty cool.
Well, and they're trying to fight to get back. They continuously petition U.S. and British governments to let them return, and it's denied every time. But
that's Trump's next move. I mean, like, see, I let these people come back. I'm the fucking greatest.
That's going to be his big PR move. Trump is listening right now, and he's like, I got it. The Chagosians, we can get them back. Yeah, right. He'd never give up a military base. No, that's what he'll do, though. He can give up the military base because he needs that military to protect him as he walks down the street to the church.
Yes, and he's going to gas the Chagosians just so they know who's boss. Yes.
You guys get back to your fucking island.
Yeah, they're going to gas him out of the Moridius. Fuck, man. Meridius. They're going to gas him out of Meridius and, back towards the Chagos Island. Give them a ride because they're not heartless. We're not heartless.
And then, when they're on the big aircraft carrier or whatever kind of battleship boat that they need to bring them over on because they're islands, that's when the gas comes out. It's like, all right, we got you here. Get the fuck off our boat.
Yeah. And then they'll, power slide through the waves and just splash them with a shit ton of water. So it's basically a giant tsunami. And then he'll say, bye.
Oh, yeah. Also, don't touch any of the marine wildlife because it's still, kind of protected, but not really. It's still an arbitration. Don't worry about it.
It's protected. We don't care, but we'll say we'll care. So you better not. Yes. Yeah. Don't do it or we'll bomb you.
Yeah.
Cynical. God, we're cynical.
If you are interested in more information on what's happened to the Chagosian people in the 60s and 70s, again, check the link to the Cracked article. I will also include a link to a book on Amazon titled Island of Shame, The Secret History of the U.S. Military Base on Diego Garcia, written by David Vine. And it's basically just a long-form book about this whole thing that we just talked about.
Yeah, and also Britannica.
I didn't read it, but
it's a British website, I guess, but it's basically a legacy of every British vassal, and it was really fascinating. I got a ton of information from there.
There you go. I got my information from crack.com and Wikipedia, so you obviously tried harder on this one than
I went down the rabbit hole. I was very fascinated by it, but just how the events played out and the cultural ramifications that came from it and kind of the dick swinging contest that the Brits, Americans, and basically the commies had over this island, I think. I mean, I can't say it's proven, but that's what I think happened.
Yeah, I mean, that in the 60s and 70s and Cold War, yeah, that's what was going on. That's basically all the Cold War was dick swinging.
Yeah, the English were like, oh, mate, it looks like I have 687 islands, and then the Americans only have 686, so they gotta buy that shit. Dog.
Split the islands down the middle, 3.5 to each.
We'll introduce, we'll introduce jazz to the English, and then and corn dogs and shit, and then we get a bunch of islands. How about that?
There we go.
And the English were like, okay, because our food is not that good here.
Yeah. I would have liked to go deeper down the rabbit hole on this. I just didn't have the time to dedicate to it this week that I thought I would. We're getting ready for a vacation next week, so yeah.
I was lucky. I was working out. I read this over 2 different workouts while I was just powering through this. It's like, man, this sucks, and it made my workout suck less. So
yeah, there you go.
There I go.
But it's super interesting. And I think there's more information if you check out that book or, like you said, on the Britannica website. A lot of stuff out there to learn more if you want to. Obviously, we can't cover every detail of everything.
Sad to say.
It's not what we're here for.
No.
We're here to give you some information on some things.
It's a podcast about something.
There it is. Thank you. That's all we've got for today, I think.
I think so.
Thank you for listening. As always, check us out on Twitter at APA something at alone_podcast. Hopefully by Monday I'll be back to regular tweeting and things will have calmed down in the world and gotten to a more calm place and people are trying to communicate and understand. Hopefully. But we'll see.
I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah, no, me neither. But if you have a voice, use it for what you can. And thanks always to those cats for providing all the music for a podcast about something.
And you guys stay sassy.
Stay classy.